The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hi everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the SCU show. I'm your host, SCU. It's probably going to be a short show this week because there's so much going on right now. Like that, what I'm doing, I'm planning for, and all this other stuff. It's just going to be a really short show, but nonetheless, it's going to be a good show, and I'm very excited to get it going here. We're going to start right off with it. It's going to be a short show, like I said, so don't expect a long one. If it's shorter than the usual, I apologize, but that's just what it is this week. Back stronger next week, of course. But of course, I want to start by talking about the University of Miami, because Miami, everyone's saying, "Oh, but the U is back." The U is back. They're strong. This is a great team. They're going to make the playoffs. It's about time. It took so long. Real Miami fans know, though, this team was back last year. And I want to start off with a little story that I remember when I covered Miami sports 2 years ago. I was the editor-in-chief of a website called Miami Sports and Lifestyle. And I will never forget the day that Miami hosted Clemson. I will not forget it. How can I forget that Miami hosted Clemson, and Clemson won 58-0. Worst loss, still, of course, it's only 2 years. Worst loss in Miami football history. The day where it was like rock bottom. Like the quote, if you know J.K. Rowling, you know her famous quote: "Rock bottom is somewhat the solid foundation of which I rebuilt my life." That was the rock bottom for the Canes. 58-0 loss to Dabo Swinney, Sean Watson, and Clemson. That was rock bottom for Miami. That's when they realized, okay, it is time to change something now. If you don't change it now, it's going to be a very long rebuild. So they fired Al Golden the day after that game. Or the day too, it was October 24th, 2015. The day after, Al Golden's out at Miami, and in comes interim head coach Randy Shannon, who ironically is now, I believe, is the interim head coach of Florida, after they fired Tim McElwain. And what do they do next week on Halloween of 2015? They go into Durham, North Carolina, and upset Duke in one of the most exciting finishes in college football history. And Miami fans know what I'm talking about. That 8 lateral kickoff return that went all the way for as time expired to give Miami the win. That was a great game. I can't believe I wasn't able to watch the moment because I was doing something else. I was away from my television. But I do remember watching. I've watched replays so many times that I remember everything. That's crazy. The fact that the way that happened, that was a sign for Canes fans that the future was bright. Of course, it wasn't going to be with Randy Shannon. It was going to be somebody else. And then they got Mark Richt. You can't get a better college coach than Mark Richt. You're not getting a Nick Saban, clearly. You got a Mark Richt. That's probably one of the best, if not the best coach you can possibly get for the Hurricanes. Last year, it was a down season. Very bad season for Miami. And it should have been a good season. They should have been in the playoff or the New Year's Six or somewhere around that category. This was not as bad a team as their record portrayed. It's sad that you look back at the 2016 season, and they had done so bad. You have a game. Yes, they should have been 10-2. You look at the schedule. I don't remember what their record was. I don't have it in front of me. They should have been 10-2 last year. They would have had a spot in the ACC title game. They would have taken over probably Virginia Tech. Yes, they would have overtaken Virginia Tech. Would have played Clemson in the title game for a chance to make the college football playoff. Unfortunately, you had a couple games where things just didn't go right for Miami. When they hosted Florida State, they had a big lead. Had a lead. It was a good lead, and they blew it. They couldn't hold on. Florida State wound up coming back to win the game. And then there was the game against North Carolina where North Carolina won controversy. There was one play that was called a touchdown. Then what it wasn't a touchdown because you look at the play, you look at the photo. The receiver had the ball. The ball was like literally falling out of his hands as he was in back of the end zone. So that was another thing that really caused Miami a lot. They finished, I believe, 8-4. They won the Russell Athletic Bowl against West Virginia. They just dominated the Mountaineers in that game. I'll never forget that game either. And Canes Twitter went crazy after that win over West Virginia. Oh, our defense just dominated. We're going to be so great. And they are. They are absolutely great. This is the number 3, I believe they're number 3 team in the country right now, Miami. It's Bama, Clemson, Miami, and Oklahoma. I would put Oklahoma over Miami, but that's another story for another time. So everyone's saying, "Oh, the U is back. It's about time." The U was back last year, in my opinion. The U was back last year. Such bad luck. It was unfortunate for them. That team should have been a college football playoff team last year, and the fact that they weren't, shame. There was also one game against Notre Dame that one could have made the case that they should have beaten Notre Dame as well, because if I'm not mistaken, they were down big and they had come back, but the comeback fell short against Notre Dame. Great game, Catholics versus Convicts in South Bend, and then this year they go ahead and they absolutely just crush Notre Dame when they come to Miami. In a game everyone thinks is going to be great, and it's wound up being a really crappy game. Shame, by the way. I had the Irish winning on a touchdown with 6 seconds left. Yeah, they lost 41-8. Ouch. Yeah, that's gonna come back to bite me on the next episode of the Kickoff. Be sure to tune into that on W2Mnet.com as well. But nonetheless, Miami is now the number 3 team in the country, and with a win over Clemson, because they will beat Virginia. They will beat Virginia this weekend. They have Clemson in the title game 2-3 weeks. A win against Clemson puts them in the playoff. The U is back. I remember I had a friend named Jonathan Valeria, something like that. He's in Japan now, I believe. Last I heard, he lives in Japan. But him and I used to go to Temple with my ex-girlfriend. We always talk about, it's all about the U. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all about the U once more. The U is back. Literally back. Like they were back last year, but now they are definitely back. Definitely back. So there's that. I do think that Oklahoma's a better team than Miami because Baker Mayfield's a much better quarterback than Malik Rosie or whatever his name is. But that's another story for another time. And as far as Clemson goes, I actually feel like Miami is the best team in the ACC, and that's better than Clemson because Clemson's had their so much struggles this year under freshman quarterback Kelly Bryant. They just struggled in so many games. Kind of like last year where they struggled. Of course, they're going to win the national title, so I can't say anything about that. But it's not the same Clemson team. Not at all. I feel like Miami is definitely capable of beating them. And like I said earlier, with the win over Clemson, they will solidify a spot in the college football playoff on New Year's Day. Whether it be the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl, that's yet to be determined. And just to prove a point, to prove that the U is actually back and that I think they're back, I know they're back and all that, I look to next year's schedule too. There's only 4 games on their schedule right now, not including ACC games, which I won't go into because they're ACC games. ACC games are always big for them. The big one is when their season opener. They host LSU at Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. That's going to be a big game. A lot of people are going to be watching. A lot of people are going to be there. And Miami's going to blow LSU out. They're going to prove that the U is still there. They're relevant, nationally relevant, when they blow out LSU. Because I know. I felt for Coach Orgeron. I liked him at USC. I liked that they hired him after firing Les Miles. Different league, different sport. They fired Les Miles at LSU, and they hired Ed Orgeron as their head coach because he had done so well. And I liked the move. I thought the LSU was going to be nationally relevant. And I thought the game of the year was going to be LSU and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, that game wound up being pretty ugly, if I'm not mistaken. That was an ugly game. It's a shame that LSU has done this. And Miami's going to blow them out the water next year. And then you got the other games. They got at Toledo. Toledo's a good team. But when we put the MAC conference against the ACC, that's not a good matchup. I mean, Miami took care of Toledo this year. What makes you think they're going to do anything different next year? And then they're home for Florida International, FIU. Butch Jones is a good Butch Davis. I don't remember his name. I know the FIU coach. I just don't know his name right now, and I should. That coach He's a good coach, but that team is not capable of beating the Canes, especially facing them against the defense, which is going to dominate for the next 5 years. It's going to be a very dominant Miami team over the next 5 years. The defense is going to be key, though. Miami has different quarterbacks every year, but that defense goes nowhere. It's not going anywhere. They're gonna have many starters on the defense, and they're just gonna dominate. It's gonna be great. The U is back. Can't wait to watch them over the next 5 years. And I still got a bunch of friends from Miami's Sports and Lifestyle I still talk to. A bunch of Miami fans. They love it. If they listen to this podcast, they're going to love that too. So there's that. Miami's massively relevant again. They were relevant since last year. Now let's switch over to the NFL. I want to go over to the NFL now. I know. You listen to the podcast, you heard me talk about, the Patriots are crap. I don't like the Patriots. I'm not buying the Patriots. All the Patriots, this, that, Patriots, that. I wasn't buying them at all. Now I buy them with all the money I have. Because this team, on Sunday, proved they are the team to beat in the AFC. This team, and crazy I'm saying this. I say a lot of crazy things on the show. Here's another one. New England. Hold on. I had to go back to my notes. I just said something about New England winning the Super Bowl. I know that. They seemed to get it together over the past couple of weeks, clearly. September was a bad month. They pushed that apart. They had a dominant October. They're killing it in November again. It's just, the team is coming together. On Sunday, I'm going to start with this. Sidetrack a little bit. On Sunday, without Chris Hogan, no Julian Edelman, because he's out for the year with a broken leg, torn ACL, whatever it might have been. Against Von Miller, Chris Harris Jr., and Aqib Talib, Tom Brady and the Patriots scored 41 points against that Denver defense. That is dominance. And before that game, during the 1 o'clock games, I kept saying, I want the Steelers to beat the Colts. Like, I want the Steelers to run the Colts out of town. Yeah, the Steelers only won by 3 on a field goal that time expired. So I was not happy with the Steelers. And then I saw the Patriots dominate. I was like, wow. Because I thought the Steelers were the best team in the AFC, and they proved me wrong. That they are not the best team in the AFC, clearly. So then New England went out and did what they did on Sunday night. National television. High altitude in Denver. That's the team to beat in the NFL right now. If you think about the Eagles 8-1 and all that, the Eagles, I'll get to this in a little bit. The Eagles will meet the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Blowout city. It's gonna be like Super Bowl 48. Probably not as bad, but it's gonna be bad Super Bowl. We'll get to that a little later though. And then you look forward to and if someone still wants to say, the Steelers are definitely the best team in the AFC, look at the schedules for these two teams. Let's look at Pittsburgh first. There are 6 games left for the Steelers. Only 2 of those games are not in prime time. 2. They play 4 primetime games the rest of the season. And over the next, they're all over the next 4 weeks too. You have tomorrow night, or Thursday night, if you listen to the podcast. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Sunday night. Brutal. That is a very, very brutal schedule as far as timing goes. 4 consecutive prime time games. That is really brutal. The Steelers are going to be very exhausted playing against these teams. Played at Tennessee, played Titans, Packers. I don't know who they played the Monday night. And then they play another Sunday night game. I don't know who they play. That is a brutal schedule. Oh my God. That is very tough. And then you look at the Patriots schedule. They play their division rivals the rest of the way. They played 2 teams. They played 2 teams out of the division. The Raiders, who are big disappointment this year, and the Steelers, who the Patriots will show they are the top seed, not them. Other than that, you got 2 games against Jay Cutler in Miami. The Bills just benched their quarterback. I'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about it on the kickoff coming up, but I'm going to talk about it here too, just a little bit, not too much. So you have 2 games against the Bills. The finale's against the Jets, who are showing that they are a crappy team. Everyone thought, oh, the Jets are going to do so well. Now they're showing how crappy they really are. So there's that. When you look at the schedules, brutal for the Steelers. Patriots looking like they're going to fly right through it. The scheduling for the Patriots is 1,000% in their favor. Like, if the scheduling decided who would get the 1 seed, New England would get the 1 seed by far. I don't say anything about Kansas City because Kansas City is not relevant to me anymore. They've lost 4 out of the last 5 games. They're not the same team they were. That started 5-0. Kareem Hunt's doing good, but he's not doing as good as he did during the beginning of the season. I still don't buy Alex Smith, even though his good numbers. I mean, he's going to be gone next year. Patrick Mahomes is going to lead the Chiefs starting next year. I don't want to hear it about Alex Smith. And I do feel like the Chiefs are overrated. They'll make the playoffs. They're going to probably lose to the Steelers again like they did last year in the division round in Kansas City or in Pittsburgh. I would bet money that game's in Pittsburgh. But yeah, it's down to New England. It's down to Pittsburgh in the AFC. NFC, different story for different time. But I give it to New England. And then you go to the playoffs. New England meets Pittsburgh. Dominance by the Patriots. The Patriots absolutely dominate Pittsburgh in the playoffs. There's no competition. Absolutely no competition. Brady has never lost to the Steelers in the playoffs. He's only lost to the Ravens and the Broncos. I believe that's it. I don't believe he's ever lost to the Steelers. He's lost to the Ravens twice. And he's lost to Denver. I don't know who else he's lost to. I'm pretty sure he never lost to Pittsburgh in the playoffs, though. Pretty sure. But, yeah, Brady dominates Pittsburgh in the playoffs. So, and here's my point about winning the Super Bowl that I brought up earlier. If they beat the Steelers next Sunday on the 26th, November 26th, if they beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, the Patriots will have locked up the Lombardi Trophy. What? Yeah. They win the Lombardi Trophy with a win over Pittsburgh because nobody's going to beat them. At that point, nobody will beat them. Absolutely nobody. If they beat the Steelers, that's it. I'm calling it. New England's going to win the Super Bowl if they beat Pittsburgh next weekend in Pittsburgh. 4:25 game, by the way. In the NFC, you have the Eagles and the Rams. That's your 2 best teams right there because Dallas has no Zeke. Tyron Smith is injured. The Giants are a huge disappointment. The Vikings are good, but they're not that good. And then there's nobody. Everybody else is cupcakes. So it's going to come down to 2 teams in the NFC. It's the Rams and the Eagles. The Rams are so not ready for the Patriots. Jared Goff against Tom Brady. They would run them out of the building. The Patriots would shut the Rams out 48-0 in the Super Bowl if they met because Jared Goff is not ready for the Super Bowl. It's just wow, like it would be so bad. As far as Philadelphia, it would be a closer game, but it wouldn't be exciting. It would be close through 3 quarters. Then the Patriots would pull away in the 4th to win the Lombardi. So you heard it here on the SCU show. The Patriots win in Pittsburgh next Sunday. They lock up the Lombardi. I'm saying it right now. Put it out there right now. And I want to talk about a little bit the Bills and what they're doing before I talk about it on the kickoff coming up later on. They benched Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman, rookie out of Pittsburgh. And honestly, I don't see a problem with that. Nathan Peterman, and I'm sure several people I know could back me up on this. Nathan Peterman was a pretty good quarterback. And he had James Conner right behind him, so he had to compete with James Conner to be the best player on the team. Nathan Peterman is pretty damn good at Pittsburgh. I love what he did. And I feel like he can do well. It's not like C.J. Beathard where he's from Iowa. I thought, okay, maybe he'll be better than Brian Hoyer because who isn't better than Brian Hoyer at this point outside of Johnny Manziel? But he doesn't play. Nathan Peterman, I feel they're playing the Chargers too. That's going to be a great matchup to watch. Like you got Joey Bosa going up against Nathan Peterman. Going to be great. I can't wait to watch that matchup. If I have it on TV, I don't know if I do or not. But I can't wait to see how it turns out. I have a feeling that that's going to be a great matchup right there. So, I have my host for the kickoff, Harry Broadhurst. Excuse me, Harry, if you listen to this podcast. He thinks that the bad move by the Bills, but I don't understand why. Tyrod Taylor obviously hasn't done the job. I feel Nathan Peterman can do it. Another thing, Tyrod Taylor had Kelvin Benjamin to throw to, and I don't think he did much with him. Another disappointment right there. So I can't wait to see what Nathan Peterman does for the Bills this Sunday against the Chargers. And with that, this ends the very short episode of the SCU show. I'm your host, SCU. I want to thank you all for listening to this podcast, whether you're listening on WTMNet.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, TuneIn, or wherever else WTMNet podcasts are available. You have been listening to the SCU show.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.